I'm Rachel Bell, and this is Your Last Meal, the show where celebrities share stories about the foods they love most, and we dig into the history, culture, or science of those meals with experts from around the world. Today on the program, Grammy-nominated musician Neko Case.
Please come back soon, sooner than you want to. It's the only thing in this whole world that would please me.
That song is called Wreck, and it's from her new album, her 9th album, Neon Gray Midnight Green, her first new record since 2018. Last January, Neko released her New York Times best-selling memoir, The Harder I Fight, The More I Love You. And she's been hard at work composing the music for a stage adaptation of the film Thelma and Louise. She and the film's original screenwriter hope to bring it to Broadway in the next couple years. Neko is a big fan of Popovers, which automatically made me think of Jordan Pond House, a historic restaurant and tea room located inside Maine's Acadia National Park. They have been serving their famous popovers since 1893. So I tracked down a former Jordan Pond House pastry chef who is most likely the world's biggest popover fan and hype woman. That is coming up later in the show. But first, my conversation with Neko Case. Where are you in the world right now?
I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah right now.
Okay. My favorite thing about Salt Lake City, Utah is that there's a calzone that's filled with spaghetti and meatballs at this pizzeria that's like completely changed my whole life.
What is the pizzeria called? Do you know?
It's called, I think it's just called Pie Pizzeria. And my friend was like, oh yeah, that was around when I was in middle school. It's like an old school place. It's called the Vesuvius. It is so good. It's so good.
Okay, I'm going to need to write that down before we finish this because there's a lot of foodies in our band. One who writes a food blog, which I don't know what it's called, but I'll find out.
Okay.
He would want to know that.
Yes. I mean, foodies, it's not like fancy, but it's good.
Oh, there's no such thing as only fancy if you're a touring band. There's no way.
Yeah. Well, thank you for giving me this time. I've been a fan for so many years, not just of your music, but I love hearing you speak, the way that you promote women, the way you stand up for women, your bravery in general. So I feel very grateful to have a little bit of your time.
Thank you.
Neko lives in Vermont, but she grew up in Washington State. She lived in Tacoma and the Bellingham area in Seattle, which is very cool if you're someone like me, a big Neko Case fan who happens to live in the Pacific Northwest. I'm in Seattle, so I'm going to do a little inside baseball just to start. I read that you worked at Bob's Java Time in Tacoma, Java Jive.
I did work at the Java Jive.
Amazing. So for people who don't know, can you just describe what the building looks like and then talk about what your job was there?
Bob's Java Jive it looks like a teapot that you walk into. It's actually like an old percolator coffee pot from the 50s that you walk into, and there's a little bar right at the front, and then there's a additional like seating area with a jukebox in the back. And I was a bartender.
And you were a fry cook too, right?
Yeah, that was one of the things that you did if you worked there.
Bob's Java Jive is almost 100 years old. It looks like a big white coffee pot with a red spout, red handle, and red lid. And when it opened in Tacoma, it was called the Coffee Pot Restaurant. But according to Atlas Obscura, over the years, it's been a diner, a drive-in, a speakeasy, a juke joint, and a go-go bar. I don't know what a go-go bar is, but I like the sound of it. It is now a tiki-themed music venue where you can do late-night karaoke 7 days a week. There's really one cool. Other place that you tried to work in Tacoma. Why wouldn't they hire you at Frisco Freeze?
Because I was a woman. They only hired frat dudes. They've changed that policy since. I'll let them off the hook, but I was pretty mad about it.
Yeah, was that in the 80s?
Yeah, and it was like, seriously? You don't think I could do this? They're like, it's just too rough. It's like, no, it's not. I live here. What? It was bro culture that didn't want, vaginas in their restaurant for whatever reason.
You also worked at my favorite bar and diner in Seattle, Hattie's Hat, which is the place I would be the most upset if it closed. I learned that you basically learned to cook in restaurants. So what kind of skills did you learn in those years that you still use today? What did you take with you? I
don't really get to use it very much, but the skill of making stock, just roasting vegetables and bones or pieces of meat if you're going to make a meat stock. Just the value of roasting the vegetables before you put them in to make the stock out of them. I learned that I was obsessed with making soup there, and they let me invent soup, and it was so much fun.
Where was that specifically where you were making soup?
I was making soup in the basement at Hattie's. They let me make up my own recipes, and I was really obsessed with it because I realized that it was a way to give love to people you were never going to meet, because soup is such a great food because like it's a complete meal a lot of the time if you have the right soup. And so I put all my love and intention into these soups, and they got popular and people liked them, and I just felt so useful. I can give them at least one good meal of the day if they get it nowhere else.
What were some of the soups that you made up that people liked the most?
Butternut squash walnut rum soup.
Rum in the soup. Interesting.
Yeah, just a little bit. And then a turkey wild rice soup that I can't give away all my ingredients. That would be
it's still a secret
when I have my own restaurant, which I never will. So I don't know why I'm so weird about it, but it's basically, a turkey and wild rice soup with kale and other things in it. But you have to make a really good stock for it to work.
You're destined to be one of those grandmas who won't give out any of their recipes and nobody knows why.
I'm really trying not to do that because food recipe hoarding kind of isn't cool. Especially with, so much culture dying. It's time to stop hoarding the recipes.
Feeding people and finding generosity in food is not something Neko grew up with in her own household. Your memoir that came out in January called The Harder I Fight, The More I Love, there's a line where you say, I was raised by 2 dogs and a space heater. You talked about having ratty hair, grubby clothes, an empty stomach. Could you talk a little bit more about your childhood and what were you eating when you were a kid?
Well, our family was really, really poor, and there was a lot of what we now call food insecurity. Like we just didn't really have food around the house. If it was a shopping day or something, like for a couple of days after, there'd be yummy snacks in the fridge after for like 2 days or something. But a lot of times there was nothing. And like, I would just be so hungry and so bored. I would do things like eat dry cake mix or something, or like, I don't know, rice without cooking it, just kind of chew it. It wasn't really that great. It was pretty gross.
Well, you were left alone a lot, right? So like you couldn't really
there
cook
was a lot
those
of
foods.
neglect.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of neglect. And we love to say, well, the 70s and 80s were a different time, which they were, but it was still a drag. You know how hungry you are when you're 12 to 17. You're ravenous, you're growing, you're trying to learn things. And I remember trying to go to school, being around like 15, 16, and I didn't have any food. I just couldn't concentrate. And so I just finally dropped out. But I was hungry, and that's all there was to it. My landlady would look the other way, and I would take eggs out of her refrigerator and just fry an egg or two, and that's kind of what I lived on. I learned to like eggs because I hated them before that, but when you're hungry, you learn to like stuff.
In her memoir, Neko tells a story of extreme abandonment. Her parents had her as teenagers, and when she was in 2nd grade, her dad came home and told her her mother had died of cancer. Nobody knew that she was sick. She was just suddenly gone. There was a family memorial, and Neko fell into a deep depression. But about a year and a half later, her mother returned. Apparently, she had faked her own death and moved to Hawaii because she didn't want to be a mother. But nothing was ever explained to Neko. So all of that loneliness and the alone time that you spent when you were a kid, did that contribute to an imagination, your creativity?
Yeah, I have a very strong relationship with nature, partly because of that. Luckily for me, my stepdad he was an archaeologist. He's retired now, but we would live in these really remote places and I would be left alone all day. And so nobody told me what my relationship with nature should be. So I formed it on my own with my own kid's imagination and human instinct. And the human instinct is to be part of nature and that we are a thing together. And so I wouldn't trade that for anything.
After the break, Neko talks about her last meal. And then I'll introduce you to the princess of popovers. If your perfect day is listening to murder podcasts while knitting in front of a fire, watching true crime shows, and wishing you could solve a mystery, I have the perfect weekend for you. February 21st and 22nd is Langley, Washington's 41st annual Mystery Weekend, where thousands of people participate in a whodunit, running around town, collecting clues, meeting costume characters, attempting to solve a mystery. Langley is a charming seaside village on Whidbey Island, less than an hour away from Seattle. And to get the clues, you'll visit charming local shops and restaurants, like one of my very favorites, Ultra House. Their ramen is as good as any bowl I had in Japan. Double Bluff Brewery, which is my favorite place to get a beer, and Saltwater for fresh local oysters, mussels, and beautifully cooked seafood. There are some big, amazing prizes for the mystery solvers. But whether you win or lose, you get to spend the weekend in Langley, one of my favorite places in the Pacific Northwest. So book your lodging now, plan your trip at visitlangley.com. What would you choose to eat for your last meal?
Oh, I thought about this very hard, and it would be popovers.
Popovers.
Popovers. Warm, cold, I don't care. With butter and jam, without butter and jam, it would be popovers.
Why popovers?
They're the perfect mix of savory and bready, and they can be Yorkshire pudding, or they can be like a delicious breakfast or dessert. They're just the perfect vehicle. My first answer was toast, because a piece of toast is the most satisfying thing you can eat. And then I realized it's like the Uber toast. There's a lot of protein in it because of the eggs, and it's so good.
Toast, though, probably is one of the most satisfying simple foods. I don't eat toast that much. And when I do, I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, this is so good. It's so good.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's one of those things we get to take for granted. And, I'm not really supposed to eat bread because it gives me a rash on my face. But there are times where I'm just like, nope, it's worth it.
Worth it.
Piece of toast.
How did the popovers make their way into your life?
I remember eating them first when I was a little kid and loving them. And I think they made me feel kind of good because they're kind of a complete food in a way. That protein, its lightness, it seems like some fancy dessert, but it's really actually quite a hearty little item. And the way that the crust kind of browns on the top. And being a little kid, I would love that it would start out as this little tiny puddle and then grow into this huge overgrown mushroom thing.
Yes.
The whole process of it seemed impossible because the dough or batter is so thin that you're like, how did it do that? If anybody ever goes to the original Pancake House or whatever, the Dutch Baby, it's the same thing.
Have you been to Acadia National Park?
Yes, I've had the popovers at Acadia National Park with the tea. Oh, so good.
I think that's the only time I've had them in a restaurant. I really love eating in IKEA. I like eating on a ferry, like places where it doesn't seem like there should be food. And you're in the national park and you're on this hike. And then all of a sudden there's this big mansion in the middle and they're giving you popovers for money, but they still have them.
I know. It's so fantastic. And you just ask yourself, why can't I just live like this every day?
I know.
I'm going to work harder to live like this every day.
Do you make them for yourself?
I haven't in a long time, only because basically I've been so busy that I haven't cooked a lot. And my partner does most of the cooking. He's got this single dad magic where he can make any vegetable perfectly steamed, delicious, and healthy. And I even have a lot of recipes that he kind of took over and now he makes it just because he just likes to cook and he goes in and he just does it. And I don't know, I'm very lucky in that regard. But occasionally I will get back in there and cook.
For her last meal, Neko Case wants popovers. A light and airy pastry with crispy edges and a tender middle that starts as a thin, eggy, milky batter and dramatically poofs up in a hot oven.
I literally was given the name at the Jordan Pond House, the Popover Princess.
That is Chef Cicely Marzelli, who currently bakes popovers at Bailey's Cafe in Dalton, Pennsylvania. But her popover obsession started at Jordan Pond House, the historic restaurant and tea house in Maine's Acadia National Park, where she spent 5 years baking them.
I was introduced to popovers in 2016. I had never heard of them, but one of my friends, she was working at the Jordan Pond House, and she contacted me because they needed a pastry chef. I live in Pennsylvania, and the Jordan Pond House is obviously in Maine. And I was like, I can't just pick up my life and go to Maine. That's crazy. And she's like, why not? I've pretty much lived my entire life since that moment just saying, why not? So I moved to Maine a week later, and I was introduced to popovers by the head chef there. He showed me how to make popovers the very first day that I was there, and I was like shocked. I was like, these are the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life.
Tell me, how many popovers were you making a day?
Pond House would see upwards of 2,000 to 3,000 people a day. We were probably making 4,000 to 6,000 popovers a day. And yeah, it is wild. You know, people would wait like 2 hours sometimes for a table. There's just so many people coming through and everybody wants to have a popover. So we would come into work at like 7 o'clock in the morning and leave around 5. And that entire time you're making popovers.
They have like designated people just making the popovers?
Yes, absolutely. There is one person standing in front of 4 convection ovens. One oven's coming out, one oven's going in, the other 2 are already in circuit, and every single popover that's being served is less than 15 minutes old.
I have to say that's a testament to your love of popovers, because you were spending 8 hours a day making the same thing over and over and you still love them so much.
Yeah, exactly. Making the batter for it was even crazier. I was cracking about 1,500 eggs a day. And at first that would take me like 2 hours to do. By the time I worked my way up to head chef, I could crack 1,500 eggs in 34 minutes.
Whoa. So you were doing it all at once. You're cracking into these containers so that they're all just cracked and then you can bake with them throughout the day?
Yes. And we would go through like 250 pounds of flour and like 30 gallons of milk.
So tell me how they are served there. Like what kind of toppings? How are they served, savory and sweet?
The best way, in my opinion, to eat a popover is hot with butter and jam. Or you could get it in like an ice cream sundae where they would cut the popover in half. They would fill it with ice cream and homemade sauce and put the top of the popover back on it. And then they would stab a big knife through it. It was delicious. But you can also cut them open and fill them with chicken salad, which is one of my favorite things to do on the savory side.
Neko is not the only celebrity with a craving for popovers.
Lots of famous people would come through. Obviously, the Rockefeller family would come through because they donated the land back in the day. And Lin-Manuel Miranda, Martha Stewart, Jennifer Coolidge, Yo-Yo Ma. Everybody gets excited about the tradition that the Pond House still holds over 100 years later.
You left Jordan Pond House and you went back to Pennsylvania, and it sounds like you brought the popovers with you.
I did. I couldn't let them go. I do have my own recipe, and the ovens that I have at Bailey's Cafe where I work, it's like a steam oven. So I can actually add steam into my oven to make the popovers even larger, which has been very exciting. It's been really fun, and a lot of people don't know what popovers are. Like, what is a popover is one of my biggest questions that I get in my life. So it's very cool to introduce them to people who have never been able to travel up to Bar Harbor and figure out what a popover is. A lot of the people who do know what popovers are almost like an older generation. And I feel like I have to bring this back to being cool.
Is it something that's easy to make at home, or do you have to have a special pan?
You do not have to have a special pan. I actually have never used the special pan unless I'm at my mom's house, who owns one. But I just use a regular standard cupcake pan, and I fill every other hole so that it has space to grow. But I find that those work the best because you're giving them more room to kind of explode at the top. And the popover pans that they sell you are very skinny and tall. I think it kind of constricts how far your popover will pop. Honestly, my best tip for making popovers is to make the batter the day before and to let it sit in your fridge overnight and then make them the next day with the batter. Let the batter sit out for about an hour to get to room temperature and then bake them. If you try to make a popover directly after like mixing it and whipping all of that air into it, it deflates for some reason. It like comes out like a hockey puck. If you give it time to sit in the fridge and all of the ingredients to kind of come together, then it's magic. It really is just magic.
I want to make them now. Is there a recipe do you have a recipe online, or is there one that you would recommend?
I don't have one online, but I can absolutely send one to you. I would love for you to try them.
Please do. I want to make them. It makes me want to clean my oven door and set up a camera to watch it transform into its poofy little top.
Yeah, and honestly, you can watch it in real time. It is so cool. Just every second, it's just getting larger and larger.
What is it that you love so much about them?
When you rip them open and just the steam billows out and you slather butter and jam all over it, there's just nothing better than a popover.
My mouth is watering. Cicely very sweetly shared her popover recipe with me, and I am happy to share it with you. I will include her recipe in my newsletter that comes out next Wednesday. It's called the Nosh Newsletter, and you can find a link to sign up in the show notes or in the link tree in my bio on my Instagram profile. Hello, Rachel Bell. After the break, Neko talks about her favorite restaurant in the country, a Hungarian restaurant in Ohio.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do people ever talk to you about their favorite restaurant in America?
Sometimes. Yeah. Do you want to share yours?
Can I?
Yeah, I would love that.
There's a restaurant it was in Cleveland. Now it's right outside of Cleveland, but it's a Hungarian restaurant called the Balaton. And it was in Shaker Heights forever. But it's an incredible Hungarian place. And I learned about things like szekely goulash and proper schnitzel. And I've never had food that delicious. And we were just in Cleveland and I had to look for them because they moved. They almost didn't make it through the pandemic, but they're like half an hour outside of Cleveland now. And I love them so much.
Is there a Hungarian population there, or are they just an anomaly?
No, there's a pretty big Hungarian population in Cleveland. And there was a couple other little diners and stuff that didn't make it either. There was a place called Fanny's that was really good too. That was more of a diner. But the Balaton is, as far as Eastern European food goes, I think it's the best I've ever had.
And your family is Ukrainian, right? Did you grow up with like similar kind of Eastern European food?
Oh God, no, because our family was actively trying not to be Ukrainian. And I didn't even realize we were Ukrainian until much later. I always thought we were Russian until my uncle was like, no, we're actually Ukrainian. But they were of the generation that if you didn't immediately try to assimilate and kill your own culture, then there was no way for you to fit in America. It was really sad. And I feel the loss of my ancestors and I feel the loss of my culture all the time.
Neko's favorite restaurant, the Balaton, opened in 1964. The owners say Cleveland is the epicenter of Hungarian culture in the U.S. 300,000 Hungarians live in the area. During the pandemic, when restaurants were forced to shut down, the Balaton almost permanently closed. But a GoFundMe was set up and the community came to their rescue. Once they were able to reopen, all of the local eaters returned and business has been bustling ever since. Well, I'm going to check out the Balaton if I'm ever in that area because my dad was born in Romania and his parents only spoke Hungarian to each other. I think there was just like a lot of border changing in Eastern Europe. And then he grew up in Israel. So like growing up, we kind of had this like mix of food. So it was like a little Hungarian, a little Israeli. And I feel like I just know the edges of what Hungarian food is. And I would be really interested to try it.
It's so beautiful because it's like the best of German and the best of Eastern European. The gravy and the spätzle alone, paprika gravy, and then zagele goulash, which is like paprika gravy, but with, big pieces of pork and like sauerkraut in it on spätzle. And that sounds like, could that be good? It's one of the most delicious things I've ever put in my mouth. And I don't even really like pork that much, but in that particular dish, it is mind blowing.
Is there a lot of sour cream there? Because I grew up in a sour cream bucket and I still live that way to this day.
Oh, yeah. The sour creaming is real and delicious and, mitigated by other flavors too. Mm-hmm. And then, there's also borscht but then there's like strudels too. Mm-hmm. Like it's a very interesting blend of everything right there. And then, of course, the incredible paprika pepper in its hot varieties and its not so hot varieties. And I
love the smoky. That's my favorite. Oh, so right. Good.
Oh yeah. The pimenton.
Yeah.
That's one of the greatest things you can, if you ever make guacamole, putting pimenton in guacamole.
Really?
Changer. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's probably like the one thing I haven't put it in. That's my favorite spice. The guacamole police. We won't tell them.
No.
Thank you so much, Neko. Thanks for adding that in at the last minute. I'm really happy to know about this restaurant.
Well, thanks for letting me talk about it. I just was like, we got to talk about Hungarian food. If the popover wasn't so perfect, that would be my last meal. So
you can have as much as you want. I mean, you could include that in there as well. We can throw that in. Neko's new album is called Neon Gray, Midnight Green. And she has a whole orchestra playing on the record. You were playing in a room together. You could still hear the human breath. There wasn't a lot of editing of taking out these natural elements. And the same when you recorded Middle Cyclone in your barn, that you can hear birds and you can hear frogs. Can you talk about why that's important to you?
Well, there's styles of music that, edit everything out, which is a style and it's legitimate and it's cool. But I do miss Humans Were Here. Yeah. And Humans Were Here is more important now, not because of some anti-style thing, because I think that style is totally valid and interesting in its own right. But I noticed that musicians are being hired less and less and less and less. And people are trying to figure out new ways to not pay us when we're making so little post Spotify that it's crushing and it's demoralizing and it hurts. It hurts your soul. And I think I maybe got one of the last advances anybody's ever going to get to make a record. And I wanted to hire musicians to play the actual instruments because I like things like keyboard violin parts. I think they sound cool too, but I wanted to have real people playing the parts. I wanted people to remember what that sounded like. And I was not in the room with the orchestra while they played, but we had the bed tracks we recorded together as a band. And then I took them to Colorado and the orchestra played all together at the same time. And I was just weeping. It's so overwhelmingly beautiful. I just was a fountain of tears and it was probably super awkward.
That's why you couldn't be in the room with them.
Exactly.
There's a lot of people playing on the record, like dozens, right?
Yeah. And I love the organic human element. Like one of the things we can do as human beings is play music together and harmonize and sing all at the same time. And even if we're not in tune, even people who can't hold a tune, if they sing in a large group, the sound of the people singing will make you cry. It's a visceral reaction inside your body. And it's one of the most incredible ways that a species communicates. We shouldn't lose sight of that. And I think that we need to remind ourselves how magnificent we are.
I went to a karaoke party last night for my friend's 50th birthday, and there were many songs where the entire room was singing together, all of us. And everybody sounds so good when they're singing together. It doesn't matter if you're good or not. It just sounded so good. And also, I find that being in that situation, it's impossible not to feel happy or feel joy.
That vibration in your chest and in your stomach. And, people tell me they can't sing all the time. And I'm like, no, that's not true. You can, actually. It's just you're going to do it in a different way. And it's going to be extra powerful, actually. It's fantastic.
This is so random. I read in an interview where you talked about the vessel that you buried your dad in.
I buried him in a Sunny Jim peanut butter can because he loved peanut butter more than anything. And I thought he would think that was really great. So I took half of his ashes and I buried him in there next to his dad. And then I took the other half and I spread them around the Methow Valley where he loved to go fishing.
I had to look it up because I hadn't heard of that brand before. So is that something that was based in the Pacific Northwest back in the day?
Yes.
When peanut butter came in cans.
And I was like, oh, this is way more fun than this stupid plastic thing that he's in.
Yeah.
And I just thought, oh, he'd like that.
Is there something that you do love talking about? Because people interview you about music mostly. And then your book. Are there things that you're like, this is something I wish people would ask me about?
Well, talking about food's really fun. So I was really excited to do this. But, I like talking about old cars or I'll talk about anything.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Thank you so much. Take care.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.
And that was Neko Case's last meal. Make sure and pick up Neko Case's new album, Neon Gray, Midnight Green, and get tickets to see her on tour this January through March. The Thelma and Louise musical she created the music for will premiere this September in London. Thanks to Cicely Marzelli, pastry chef at Bailey's Cafe in Dalton, Pennsylvania. And if you want her popover recipe, don't forget to subscribe to my Cascade PBS newsletter, The Nosh. Your Last Meal is a product of Seattle's Cascade PBS. Go to cascadepbs.org to become a member, and for as little as $7 a month, you will get Passport, which gives you on-demand access to all PBS programming, including a ton of food shows. Everything from Julia Child to past Your Last Meal guest Patty Yinich to my show, The Nosh, and dozens and dozens and dozens of shows in between. This episode was produced by me and senior producer Sarah Bernard, who also mixed and mastered it. Original theme music by Prom Queen. And if you like this show, and I'm guessing you do if you're still listening at the end of the credits, please rate and review us in Apple Podcasts. It only takes a second to write a few nice words, and it's a free way to support the show. Having more ratings and reviews means we'll show up more frequently in the algorithm. I'm Rachel Bell, and this is Your Last Meal. Thanks for talking popovers with me.
I'm very excited to.
I know. I really tracked you down. I was a little embarrassed about it, but I'm like, I'm doing journalist stuff, but also I'm contacting all your old employers and current employers.
Right.
So, it's what we do.
No, I was very excited. I was like, this is very nice.
You're like, I must be very important.
I know. You must need to know about the popovers.
Badly. Very badly.